We had so many students on the mat. At one point, we had over 1,000 students. We had to split the groups in half. So half of the students would watch, half of the students would drill, and then we would swap.
Welcome to the Combat Creative Podcast, where we explore the heart of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, uncovering its creative, entrepreneurial, and leadership qualities with guests who embody what it means to be a leader in our BJJ community. Now on 3, 1, 2... Hey everybody, thank you for tuning into another episode of the Combat Creative Podcast. I am your host, Jared Quackenbush, and I am so excited for today's episode because we have Arman, who is the professor at Jiu-Jitsu at UCF, which is here in University of Central Florida. And Arman, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thank you for having me.
Wasn't the smoothest of intros, but we're going to roll with it, okay?
We'll go with it. We'll go.
If you could give us just a quick introduction before we get into some of the exciting things that you've been a part of, could you go ahead and share how you got started in Jiu-Jitsu, how you found it?
I actually started off wrestling. I wrestled in high school. Then when I started college, I wrestled at the club team at UCF for 2 years. Got a little bored with wrestling. I wanted something more. I was always a big fan of MMA, so then I transitioned to the Mixed Martial Arts Club at UCF. That's actually where it all started. Mm-hmm. At the time, we had a blue belt running it. We didn't have any formal instructors. One of my good friends, Arman Badrudeen, he was running the club at the time. I ended up participating a lot, becoming one of the coaches, and then I ended up becoming president of the club. I sought out Master Liborio just as he sought out the club. We sought each other out for mutual goals, and we ended up working together. And that's how I started Jiu-Jitsu. Master Liborio said, Arman, I'm not going to give you your blue belt until you start training in the gi. Because I went wrestling to MMA, so strictly no gi stuff. He's like, you have to train in the gi. So he forced me to train in the gi for a year, ended up getting my blue belt, and that's my journey starting into Jiu-Jitsu.
So which one's your favorite? Do you prefer gi or no gi?
I'm a no gi guy.
Are you really? Man, sweaty people.
Yeah.
Man, I did that. Hector's been trying to get me to do that. And I'm like, dude, this is so it's slippery.
MMA is everything, you know, so.
No, it's great, man. That's really neat. So how long have you been training Jiu-Jitsu now?
Formally, Jiu-Jitsu in the gi, I started in 2018. So what's that, about 6 years now?
Nice.
But, people factor in the wrestling background. I did MMA 2 years before.
Sure.
But formally in the gi, so about 6 years.
Are you learning under Liborio?
Master Liborio is my professor. He basically took me under his wing. Before him, I was learning from a blue belt. Who was my coach.
One of those, yeah?
Yeah. So started really from the ground up.
Well, I want to talk about the program at the college because I think this is really unique. One, I love it because I live in Central Florida as well. I just live more on the coast, but love UCF. Yep. And it's been really interesting. I noticed some videos I would see online, Jiu-Jitsu videos, and I would see this like UCF logo in the background. And I'm like, I wonder if they have something to do with it. And then one conversation led to another. Come to find out, there's actually like accredited Jiu-Jitsu program.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that.
When I took over presidency, it was the Mixed Martial Arts Club at the time. My goal was to grow the club because we wanted more members. So I needed guidance from someone that obviously has experience building a business or building a club, building any type of Jiu-Jitsu program. So that's where Liborio comes in. Like I said, we met each other for different reasons, and we ended up working together. He basically took me under his wing. Right. I'll tell you the story. Basically, he had 2 students come in, and they're like, hey, we want to start a Jiu-Jitsu program here. And I'm like, cool, we have an MMA program right now. Let's work together. Let's try to make this. Can I meet this guy? I didn't know who Liborio was. I didn't care who he was. I didn't know who he was. I'm just like, let's work together. Let's make it happen. Liborio's like, oh, come over to my house. I'm like, cool. I get my mom to bake some sweets, just to peace offering, right? I go over to his house. He's in a meeting with like 10 black belts. I'm a little white belt with a little bit of wrestling experience. I'm like, what's going on here? Right? And he's like, guys, this is Arman. He's the president. Super welcoming, super nice.
Really?
My very first time meeting him. And I'm intimidated. You have all these black belt school owners, right? Jason Patino, who's the owner of Champions Jiu-Jitsu and Martial Arts. Julius Mobley of Spartan Jiu-Jitsu and a few other guys, right? So I'm like, what? But, hey, from that moment, he basically took me in. He took me under his wing. I became like his young grasshopper.
Yeah.
He showed me the way. I brought him into UCF. And from there, we built the program, right? He was like, let's change the program from mixed martial arts to Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Because mixed martial arts, it has that aggressive connotation, right?
I was going to say.
Yeah, it intimidates a lot of people. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if we label it more as a martial art, it's more welcoming, right? Mm-hmm. So we went through a whole entire rebrand the Mixed Martial Arts Club ended up becoming the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Club. And from there, we started marketing to all the UCF students. Man, we grew. We had so many students on the mat. We had to split the groups in half. So half of the students would watch, half of the students would drill, and then we would swap.
Where were you doing this at?
Oh, we were doing that. We had a room. We call it the mat room now, which is amazing because it's a permanent mat room now. But before that, it was a room in which we would roll out the wrestling.
Right, I'm sure.
Every single day, roll out the wrestling mats. Boom. We had, at one point, we had over 1,000 students.
That's wild.
1,000 students. Now, obviously not coming in all at one time, 3 days a week, rolling in, 1,000 different students rolling in on a weekly basis. So basically UCF, they saw the demand, they saw the love for the sport. So two amazing things happened from there because of Master Liborio and Andrea, who was one of the people who was leading kind of changing the mat room at the time. Basically, we turned that wrestling mat room into a permanent mat room. So we got permanent mats down in there.
Nice.
So how many universities what a permanent mat space for all martial arts to utilize?
Mine didn't.
Yeah, right?
We just rolled them out on the basketball court.
And then from there, we were able to create an accredited jiu-jitsu program so students can actually take the course and receive college credit for doing the course. So
I was just curious, which I love that. My minor was PE, so it wasn't uncommon for me. In the middle, my major was biological science, so I'd take my science classes, and then I would also have classes in the gym, basketball, sports officiating classes, sports injury. I took a wrestling class. So, I mean, what type of students are taking that class?
So it's actually really interesting. You would think, I talk with my students about this all the time. I find it so fascinating. You would think we would get like a variety of students. Most of our students are tech guys, engineers, computer scientists, guys looking to, maybe they need extra credit or whatever, but we tend to bring in those like cerebral, those like thinking type students.
If you are practicing, that's a big part of it.
Yep.
I've been doing it just long enough now to see people come in the door, and I've seen people, man, they're catching up to me quick. Or, maybe they're taking some are taking longer.
Yep.
A lot of it is, maybe what they do for their career and just what I believe, like how they were created and what they're capable of doing as far as thinking and learning and retaining and then applying. It's pretty wild.
Well, that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, right? When you step on the mats, it's a neutral ground. Doesn't matter if you're a doctor, doesn't matter if you're a garbage worker, doesn't matter if you're a custodian, doesn't matter if you're a teacher. Everyone's the same, right? And that's where we can all connect and learn together.
So, Arman, what does the program at UCF look like today? And share a little bit of what your day-to-day involvement looks like in that.
So after Master Liborio, he gave me the blessing of running the classes and teaching the classes. It's basically split up into two sections, right? We have the club, which is open and free to all students. Anyone, as long as you're a UCF student or staff, you can train in the club.
Really? Right? Okay.
And back when I was running it before Master Liborio, I was very set on making it free. College students, we don't have money. I was a broke college student.
Yeah.
So I couldn't afford to pay membership at a gym.
Yeah.
So I wanted that to be like, everyone can learn. Money's not an issue. Just come in. If you're willing to learn, we're willing to teach you, right?
Sure.
And then we have the class. That one is tuition-based because of college credit, so you will have to pay tuition, but that's through the university, right? We don't get any of that. So
understood.
So basically, we have classes first. Classes take place at around 10:30, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then right after the class is over, we have club practices. But my classes, I open up to any student. Anyone that's willing to learn, I'm willing to teach you. I just can't give you a grade. We cap our classes at 30 students, so they can still get it. I have a lot of TAs, people that voluntarily give me their time, that are willing to help with the program, which I'm very thankful for. And so we go from class to club.
And what has that been like for you? Kind of running this, seeing it grow, seeing it change?
From someone that's been in there from the beginning, from the days of having less than 10 students on the mat, rolling out the mats physically, to just having a permanent mat space now, having the mats so full that we gotta separate students, and teaching it. It's amazing. I love seeing the process, and I really can't thank Master Liborio enough for coming in and putting his little flavor on it.
It definitely helps having somebody like him, I'm sure, like mentoring you, teaching you. Yep. He's been doing jiu-jitsu for a little while now.
A little while.
When it comes to these college students, can you talk about maybe some of the advantages maybe this is giving them? Or maybe Can we share about maybe the progress you've seen now that you've been teaching these guys? Like, how is it affecting their college beyond the mats?
So, like I said, we tend to bring in a lot of the engineers, computer science students. Jiu-Jitsu is a happy break for them. It's a place for them to basically forget about everything else. Every student that comes in, especially during finals week or they have an exam, they're always so stressed. They're always working. They're always worried about something, right? So when they come on the mats, that's their time to decompress. That's their time to, relax, flow, get a little bit of activity, and not worry about anything in the outside world, which is kind of, that's the goal. Step on the mats, let's have a good time. For that hour, 2 hour, don't worry about your exam. Don't worry about your physics exam or your calculus or whatever.
Right.
Just enjoy jiu-jitsu. Just enjoy it,
I wanted to ask you about some of the challenges that you've faced starting, you and Master Liborio, starting this program, and what have you done to overcome them?
There's a lot of challenges with building anything, right? I guess first was exposure, because a lot of people, before we were mixed martial arts, now a lot of people just don't know what it is. So it's kind of educating people on what jiu-jitsu is, how it could benefit them, especially women, right?
Yeah.
It'll bring in a lot of guys. Guys are aggressive. They like to learn how to fight, right, or stuff like that. But the women, it's very important for them to learn self-defense.
Yeah.
So just marketing it correctly, re-educating people on kind of how the benefits can help them and stuff like that.
What about getting the university on board?
So that was a case of just numbers. Basically the sport,
They saw the demand.
they saw it, right? And it was overwhelming. It was undeniable how big this program was and how it could be. So we did events, right? Master, I'm his right-hand man when it comes to events. I love to organize things.
Nice.
Right? So that's how I'm able to balance 6 jobs.
Yeah.
So basically every time we throw an event, every event we've thrown in collaboration with UCF has been absolutely massive. It's made some type of newsletter, magazine,
Awesome.
whatever. So because of that demand, it's undeniable.
Let's take a moment before we transition to what the future looks like and some of the things that I'm excited to share. Having somebody mentoring you like Master Liborio, what are some important lessons you've learned working so closely with him?
I know he hates when I say this sometimes, but he's like a father to me. He taught me a lot of what I knew as far as communication goes. Culture is probably the most important thing you can set. That's the most important foundation you can set. Make people feel welcome. Don't make anyone feel ostracized. Give a place for everyone to feel welcome. I'm explaining that very poorly. He does a way better job at knowing it, to be honest with you. But like football, basketball, all those other sports, they tend to weed out the really good athletes. Jiu-jitsu is for everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you were born an athlete or not, right?
You're welcome.
You're welcome. You're welcome to learn, and there's a progression for you, right? So it's just a matter of, let's bring everyone in, regardless of if you're talented, not talented, athletic, not athletic, small, big, doesn't matter, right? You can make jiu-jitsu work for you.
Now, what are some things that you have personally learned from your experience being the professor at the college, working with the club, growing this club, and now teaching? What are some things you've learned?
Patience and 1% better every day, right? It doesn't happen overnight. Right? It's all a process. So just giving those small investments and working on that 1% on 1% on 1%, compounding those little things, right? Just from marketing to everything. Just being patient, letting the process work, and then letting all those investments come back to you tenfold eventually.
I want to think, now that you've been teaching people and working with people, can you think of anybody or a specific person, something that's kind of made this all worth it?
At the end of every semester, UCF does this review, and it's an anonymous review, so they could put whatever.
Sure.
They could talk all the madness, or they could talk all the goodness. I have yet to receive a bad review.
That's great.
And every time I read those reviews, it melts my heart genuinely. There's also Rate My Professor, which is voluntary.
You're on there?
I'm on Rate My Professor. That's where students go to, they'll anonymously talk classes. I got, I think, 7 reviews right now, and all of them are just, it generally makes me feel good.
Dude, that's awesome.
So reading stuff like that, knowing I had that impact in students' lives. And here's the thing. I always like to say Jiu-Jitsu, the Jiu-Jitsu club at UCF, it's an introduction to Jiu-Jitsu, right? Because the students that come to us, they're not going to be with us forever, right? It's not like an academy. They're here for 2 to 4 years, whether they come to us as a junior or whenever they start, right? And then they're gone. So our main goal at UCF is to essentially, here's your foundation. Go check out all the academies. See which one's for you. Every single academy, their vibe, their culture is so different.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many people where they'll go into an academy, they think that that's the only way jiu-jitsu is done, and it just doesn't vibe with them. And then they never train jiu-jitsu again. So one thing we really emphasize at UCF is, listen, every academy is different. It's like a different flavor of juice or whatever. Some people like grapes, some people like watermelon, some people like cherry, right?
Yeah.
Try out every single academy. Do a trial. See which one you like.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? See which academy vibes the best with you, and then stick with them. And if it doesn't vibe with you any longer, then find another one. Jiu-Jitsu is a lifestyle, right? You can't take one academy at heart, right? There's so much that goes into it culturally, and every professor is different as well. Every professor has their own little flavoring.
And they have different goals that they want. And that was what I was going to ask you. What are your goals for these students who are coming in for 2 to 4 years? And you're giving them a foundation. You're giving them a taste. And then hopefully, what do you hope to see them do? Like, continue it, I assume.
My number one goal is for them to understand that jiu-jitsu, there's no one way to do it. There's no one academy that you need to be at for the rest of your life. For them to train for the rest of their life and enjoy it. It doesn't have to be competition. You don't need to beat your body up. Just enjoy the process of it. Yeah. At the end of the day, it's healthy. You're doing physical activity, right? I got my master's in exercise science. So
really?
I think most people should be doing some type of physical activity, exercising. More than that, from a mental health aspect, it's good to just get your mind. The same reason the students come, the same reason the doctors and the lawyers go to the academy. Just get their mind off of work, stress, family. Just be on the mat. Enjoy the movements, right? It's more than just competition and winning all the time. Let's set a healthy foundations for you so you could train for the rest of your life, right? That's essentially the goal.
And that is what I'm super thankful about where I'm at. Now my professor's always preaching preservation for you, preservation for your teammates. I notice at this academy, my opponents are so tough, but they're not trying to rip my arm off. They're not trying to hurt me. Like, they're pushing me, but they have my best interest. And I hope it's made me better. I hope I'm as good of a teammate to them as a lot of them have been to me, because their example has been like incredible. Because I'm now getting into, folks, my late 30s. I have to be thinking about the activities I'm doing, and is this going to add to my life or take away? And yes, it's adding a lot, but as far as the longevity, I'm sure we know practitioners who are like, oh, my knee's broken, my back's broken, like, oh, jiu-jitsu broke me. But also, how much of it was like maybe your life choices and how you trained and how you ate and who you trained with. So that's great, man. That's really cool to hear.
It's just like, your partners, your training partners, they can make or break your foundation in jiu-jitsu for the rest of your life, right? If you have a really bad training partner for your first experience, you're probably going to hate jiu-jitsu. Right? And that's why culture is so important, because culture kind of sets the foundation for everyone that's already in the gym, right? You want to be in a gym where everyone's welcoming, where you're not worried about them popping your arm or choking you to sleep.
I mean, it's already tough enough, right?
Yeah.
And then if you start adding all those difficult layers on top of it, I've talked with people on here about culture, and it's been great. And I hope people have gotten value out of it from what my guests have shared. But you've mentioned a few things on this conversation of like marketing. So I just wanted to see, maybe ask you about that. Maybe it can help a school owner. How have you, now you're also doing this on a college campus, so it may be different, but what are some things that you and Master Liborio did as far as marketing? What was some of the plan, and what was maybe most successful?
So Master Liborio is very big on systems and processes, right? So he's the idea guy, and then I try to make it happen.
Sure.
So basically, old school, and this is as old school as it gets.
What was it?
We got a spot in front of the student union. We made ourselves visible. We handed out flyers, right?
Were you wearing your gis?
No, we were not wearing our gis, but we did have gis on display, right?
Okay, nice.
But it's important for people to see you, right? It's important for you, and this is not online marketing. Maybe online marketing would be better for jiu-jitsu schools just trying to bring people.
Sure.
But our goal is to get in front of people. Let them see us. Let them meet us, right? Talk to them. Maybe answer any questions and maybe change their minds about whatever their preconceptions were about jiu-jitsu, MMA, martial arts in general. So that was probably the biggest thing, because the second there were eyes on us, there were so many eyes on us, we had to stop marketing. Because at that point, there was so much people in the room that it was taking away from the quality of training. So it really only took a semester of good marketing, and we never marketed after that.
There, I love it. Well, jiu-jitsu has such a unique way of just consume. Like, people get the jiu-jitsu bug, and I think if you get the eyeballs and they come and experience a good environment, and then they're having fun, and then they're being challenged, like they are going to talk about it, and their friends are going to learn about it.
And it's just a snowball effect.
The future. So what does that look like for you, for your jiu-jitsu as a practitioner, for you as a business owner, entrepreneur, all these things working? Sure.
Obviously, the goal is to have my own gym in the future. Master Liborio and I, we've been talking about this for a while. Him and I are going to partner up and open the second Martial Arts Nation facility, wherever that may be. Right now, we're looking for locations, but, you know, you can't rush the process.
Of course.
And the process, right where we are right now, Demetrius Bronson, this is his gym. I'm his manager right now. So right now, I'm learning the works of owning, essentially, I don't want to say owning a gym, but managing a gym, basically doing everything.
There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just being good at choking people.
So Libo, he tells me this every single day, and he always gives me his time, and I'm always so thankful. He's always like, Arman, let's go get a coffee. Arman, let's go get a coffee, like 2 to 3 times a week. So we'll go get a coffee, and he's like, Arman, you're a great instructor, one of the best instructors I know, but you need to learn the business. You need to learn the business. He was telling me that for the last 2 years. So what do? I get a job managing a business. Now he's like, okay, Arman, you're doing exactly what I want you to do. Do this, this, and that. This, and that. I can't explain how grateful I am to because he's always like, Arman, you got to do this. You got to do this. And if I don't do it, he's going to be on top of me for it. So he's very invested in my growth. But, you know, the goal is to have...
Why? Why is he invested in your growth?
So he gave me a lot of direction. When I finished my bachelor's degree, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
When I had first met him, I wanted to be an MMA fighter.
Sure.
Yeah, I was one of those young and dumb kids with hopes and dreams. I wanted to fight. He comes up to me, he's like, Arman, what are you doing? It's like, you're too smart for this. It's like, you got to learn the business side of it. Don't fight. He's trained professional. He's like, I trained professional fighters my whole life. It's so hard to make it. He's like, why don't you learn the business? Come, I'll teach you everything. So when I finished my bachelor's, and I was a little lost. I didn't really know what I wanted to do.
Sure.
I was going to move back. My family's in South Florida. I was going to move back and just figure it out there. He's like, Arman, do your master's degree. Stay here. I'll help you pay for your master's degree. This man really paid for my master's degree so I could stay involved with the program with him. His wife would invite me to dinner, cook me dinner, because I was always saving money.
Yeah.
His wife Misty, God bless her. I love that whole family. That family's my family. That's what I always say. He's like a father, Misty's like a mom to me, right? They're my Orlando family. She made dinner for me every week. Give me food to take home. Always giving me, like great people. He's like, Arman, you gotta learn the business. Stay in Orlando. I'll teach you everything you need to know. Just trust the process. So ever since then, I've been under his wing, and there's been ups and downs, right? But I have nothing but respect for the man.
What advice would you have for aspiring jiu-jitsu business owners, aspiring jiu-jitsu leaders?
To anyone that's looking to, be a gym owner or start their own business, my number one advice is to find a mentor, right? I have 3 mentors that I go to, and I ask them questions all the time, because you need to find someone that's been in the ringer, that's done it, that can maybe not give you step-by-step, but at least guide you in the right direction. So if you ever get astray, right, they can at least pull you back and be like, okay, here, this is what you got to do. This is what you got to do. So I always go to them. I'd like to give them a shout out. Eduardo, Johnny, and Master Libo, they've been paramount to the little bit of success I've had so far. And I ask them questions all the time. You gotta be a student. You gotta be a student, especially to people that have done it before.
I remember when I was starting my business, and I would go to these entrepreneur conferences and read these books, and they're like, get a mentor. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know where to find it. I don't know, like, everybody in my circle was not what in business. Like, I was a school teacher trying to teachers. It was really hard there for a while, kind of finding mentors. Like any advice on finding them? Like what have you experienced?
So it's funny because Johnny Eduardo, I just they were my personal training clients. Yeah, so they just we kind of ended up meeting each other. But Master Liborio, I sought him out, just like he sought me out. It just so happened, by God's grace, whatever, that we ended up finding each other at the same exact time. Because
And then how that happens?
and he was looking for me, so it's kind of funny how that kind of.
There's like that ancient martial arts saying, like, what is it? It's like the teacher will present himself when the student is ready.
It was like fate. And sometimes I just sit back and I'm like, man, how did that happen? Like, how did we end up being so? Right?
It happens when you're intentional. And that's my advice for anybody listening. It took me a while to find mentors. It took time. It took proximity. It took, for me, prayer, like intentionality.
Yeah.
It took asking. And it was really hard for me initially, like finding mentors. But I will tell you, it's been super valuable in my personal growth. And I tried to reach out with, if I want to learn from I remember having this gentleman, like a successful guy, I wanted to learn from him. I'm like, what? I don't have anything to offer this guy. But I tried to think about it. I tried to think, like, what can I do? What skills do I have that I can, to reach out and try to help him? And really, that's how I built some of my best relationships. I will give a book. I had a really good friend of mine, and he was like, dude, you are living the life of a go-giver. And I'm like, well, what's a go-giver? He's like, this book, you got to read this book. Have you ever heard of it?
No,
Dude, you got to read it. Yeah. I love the book, The Go-Giver. We've all heard the term go-getter. Yeah. Well, a go-giver is somebody who leads his life with giving intentionally. Yep. So if you haven't read that book, you got to read it. It's a kind of like a parable, like a fictional story with like it's a true story with like a fictional background, but that was really helpful for me. Just wrapping it up, I'm curious about you now as a practitioner. What are some of the things that you're working on right now? What are some of the challenges you have? What are some of the things you're just enjoying most about you still learning jiu-jitsu?
Man, as a practitioner, as an athlete, the hardest part is time, right? So when you're teaching so much, and I've talked to so many professors and other teachers who do the same thing, you get so caught up in teaching, you don't really have a lot of time to develop yourself, right? So that's my biggest challenge, finding time for me to squeeze in what I need to do, because a lot of my learning right now is self-directed. I take my training into my own hands. I find out what I'm weak in, and I try to fix that. So right now I'm down the Gordon Ryan instructional rabbit hole.
There you go.
I'm following a theme for myself. I have a theme for myself every month. This month I'm learning straight back escapes. There you go. Right? Next month I'm going to be doing straight pin escapes. I got all the Gordon Ryan instructionals, so right now I'm just trying to take it step by step. I'm treating myself like a white belt again, because my big thing is you got to be good at the foundations, right? You got to be good at you're always going to need to know how to escape. There's always going to be someone bigger, badder, tougher out there, right? So just treating myself like a student, treating myself as both my instructor and my student at the same time. So
teaching and educating is just in my DNA. And so if I can help kids one day or whatever that looks like, even if it's just volunteering, like it doesn't mean I have to be the guy teaching. We're a long ways away from that. But I would like to know I have a foundation in the fundamentals to where I can share that with new practitioners, new kids, whatever it looks like. And it's really neat that you're doing that. So now when that day comes, which I'm sure it will, now I have you to reach out to be like, dude, how do I help this person?
Yeah,
how do I?
Come by, man. So I actually teach, I'm one of the assistant instructors for the kids program at Liborio's gym. Let me tell you, teaching kids is life-changing.
Really?
It's absolutely just seeing the growth from little 4-year-olds to 5-year-olds, man, like seeing them get older, seeing them become more disciplined, mature, you have to do it. Find your local kids program. And do it. One of the best things I've ever done in my life.
Love it. Arman, wrap it up. I want to let everybody know how they can follow you, find out more about you and what you have going on. So would you mind sharing that, please?
So the best place to follow me and just keep in touch. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Is Army Send You. That's my Instagram handle.
We'll put it I'll put a link somewhere.
Put the link somewhere, and Instagram is probably my main social media. So if
What about BJJ UCF? Is there a page or is there a website? Like, where can people find out more about that program? Maybe they want to start one at their college or something.
Of course. So that's actually what Master Liborio and I were doing. We're trying to implement Jiu-Jitsu in every major university.
Really awesome.
Yeah. So we created an event and an organization for that, which we'll get into another time.
Sure.
Maybe. But the best way to reach out, if you're at UCF or if you're at your own university, find out if they have a Jiu-Jitsu program. But if you're going to UCF, BJJ UCF is the way to find us. Our website's not up to date. Don't check it. But Instagram.
Is there a BJJ UCF Instagram?
Instagram's
Awesome.
Yep. Instagram's the best way.
All right, thank you guys. I'm going to make sure that you have links or usernames to all those things. You got to go check them out. Arman, thank you so much for coming on.
For having me.
And folks, listen, just want to say thank you. With all the podcasts, all the videos you could be watching or listening to on the internet, the fact that you took time out of your day to listen to this one, we both greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Dude, good job, buddy. We did it.
Thank you.